Hey everyone, it's Kenji. I'm going to make a caprese salad. So, like a lot of Italian food, the trick to a great caprese salad is to just start with great ingredients and just don't mess them up. It is very, the easiest way to mess up a caprese salad is by doing too much to it. What you really want to do is get a nice plate like this one. You want really good ingredients. So that means you start with tomatoes. Don't try and make a caprese salad in the middle of the winter because you're not going to find good tomatoes. Right now, we're heading into tomato season. So these are all tomatoes either from my garden, my neighbor Alana's garden, or from the farmer's market. All local, all fresh. If you can grow your own tomatoes, like it's one of the things that really benefits most from being homegrown versus bought at the supermarket. And the reason for that is because when you're buying tomatoes, the further they get shipped, the firmer they need to be when they're picked so that they don't really get bruised up during the shipping process. So that means a lot of tomatoes that you're getting at the supermarket, or sometimes even at the farmer's market, are going to be picked when they're lightly green, just mildly green, so that they never really develop the full flavor that a true vine-ripened tomato is going to get. And the reason they do that is because they don't want the tomatoes to squish on the process. And tomatoes, by their nature, are very squishy when they are when they're ripe. So if you can grow your own tomatoes, let them ripen on the vine, that's your best bet for making an excellent tomato, any kind of tomato salad really, but an excellent caprese. What I also like to do is I use a wide variety of tomatoes, and I like to cut them into sort of interesting shapes so that you get a little variety of color and texture, and different bites here and there throughout the salad. I like to also layer them sort of lay them flat on a plate like this. Let's see, what other ones can we use? Let's use some of these small grape tomatoes and cherry tomatoes. And then let's use up one of these which is a nice firm, plumpest. We use one of these Brandywines. These Brandywines are some of my favorite tomatoes. These kind of purple Cherokees actually is what they are. That's what they are. They're called purple, although really they're kind of green and red. I don't know why they're called purple. Do they look purple to you? They don't look that purple to me. All right, so we got our tomatoes going. We're gonna lay them flat on the plate like this. Next, we're gonna use some real good, oh, by the way, tomatoes, generally you wanna store them at room temperature. Some people will tell you never ever put them in the fridge, but there are exceptions to that. If you have so many tomatoes growing that you're not going to possibly use them up fresh, and you don't feel like making sauce, it's generally better to put them in the fridge as they're verging on becoming overripe than it is to leave them out and allow them to overripen. And I base this not just on anecdotal evidence, but on dozens and dozens of taste tests, blind and otherwise, that myself and my colleague Daniel Gritzer at Serious Eats have done. If you have a tomato that's on the verge of being overripe, it'll taste better if you refrigerate it overnight, take it out the next day, let it come up to room temp and eat it, than if you let it over-ripen at room temperature overnight. That's something that has been confirmed unanimously in numerous taste tests we've done. So the advice to never put a tomato in the fridge is good if you can avoid it, but if you have a tomato that's going to be overripe, go ahead and refrigerate it. You're gonna see benefits from that. All right, so we got our tomatoes. Next, mozzarella. So this is Buf, which is buffalo mozzarella from Colombia. I think I've plugged it on this show before. As always, I don't take sponsorships or do anything, so anytime I plug something, it's just because I love it. I've visited the factory where they make this, and just outside of Bogota. It is, I think, better than most of the imported Italian buffalo mozzarella you can get in the United States, because it tends to be fresher. Doesn't have to travel as far to get here, so it doesn't have that kind of funkiness that imported Italian mozzarellas can sometimes have. Of course, if you have a local dairy that makes great mozzarella, cow milk or buffalo milk or otherwise, you should go with that. But really, again, you want to use the highest quality mozzarella you can find. I like tearing it up into chunks like this. I think it just looks nicer, and I like that feel as opposed to the sort of really clean slices that you sometimes see. The worst kind of caprese salad is one where you have that low quality sliced mozzarella with winter hothouse tomatoes, kind of layered with like whole basil leaves stuck in between. They're just never very good. But a fresh caprese salad with good ingredients is like the best thing ever. Last, basil. Again, you know, basil doesn't vary in quality as much as, say, tomato and mozzarella does. But again, you do want to look for nice, fresh stuff. And as with the mozzarella, I like to hand tear the basil and kind of scatter it around. So you're really getting the aroma from it as opposed to giant big leaves in every bite. Now, after this is the part where a lot of people screw up a caprese salad by fiddling with it too much. So I firmly believe that vinegar, you know, balsamic, sometimes you'll see these salads dressed with balsamic vinegar. I don't think a good caprese salad needs it. And in fact, I think balsamic vinegar actually, I think, overwhelms and distracts from really fresh mozzarella and really great tomatoes. Great tomatoes taste great on their own. You don't need that balsamic vinegar. What they do use is really good olive oil. So this, again, you want to use your best olive oil. This one is a fresh olive oil from California, from Sonoma. Last year's harvest. Extra virgin. So you want to find an oil that is sort of nice and peppery, has a little bit of bitterness and astringency, you know, grassy. You know, that said, you can do whatever. You know, olive oils come in a wide variety of flavors, and you can just use whatever is your favorite. Doesn't even have to be Italian. This one's not. And now, if you really want, you could add some black pepper, but generally olive oil has, you know, good olive oil will have those kind of spicy, peppery notes on its own. So you don't necessarily need to add black pepper. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. This is a really nice, spicy olive oil, so I don't need any pepper. Nice, flaky sea salt. This is Malden salt. You can use something like, you know, fleur de sel, or if you have like that fancy Himalayan pink salt, or whatever, you know, any kind of textured finishing salt is what you want to go for here. And be relatively generous with it. You know, tomatoes love salt, as do chefs. All right, and that is it. Great ingredients, barely touched. And I think that's a pretty perfect salad. That is good. Yeah. All right, Shabu, here. Sit. Oop. One, you want a tomato? Here you go, buddy. Tomatoes are Hamon's favorite. We used to have when we lived in New York, we had a little tomato plant growing on our balcony in a pot. And Hamon would sit out on the balcony on the 17th floor, staring out over the city. And every once in a while, he would kind of just lean his head over and chomp down a tomato. And we only figured this out because we saw that all the tomatoes below like 2 feet in height were picked clean, whereas the rest of the plant had tomatoes. And then we discovered it was Hamon. All right, caprese salad. Guys, gals, non-binary pals, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.